If you work in university maintenance, Granger considers you an MVP because your playbook ensures your arena is always ready for tip-off. And Granger is your trusted partner, offering the products you need all in one place, from HVAC and plumbing supplies to lighting and more. And all delivered with plenty of time left on the clock, so your team always gets the win. Call 1-800-GRANGER, visit Granger.com, or just stop by. Granger, for the ones who get it done.
What's up, y'all? It's your boy 12 Kyle, and thank you for listening to another edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. If you haven't done so already, make sure that you subscribe to this podcast. You can find this podcast just about anywhere. All right, so check it. On this particular podcast, man, what I want to talk about is just want to reflect a little bit on Biggie and Tupac. I think if you ask people about Biggie and Tupac, a lot of times you will get, depending on who you ask, different stories. But I wanted to take a podcast just to kind of reflect a little bit. Not going to get too into their stories per se, because I think most of us know their stories. But I really want to give you a look at them from a fan's perspective. And I'm a fan. I'm a huge fan, was a huge fan, always will be a huge fan of both. I guess I can start really with my introductions to both of them. The first time I heard Tupac, God, I don't even remember what year it was. I guess whatever year it was that same song came out by Digital Underground. Now, Digital Underground was, they were jamming. And I mean, like, the Sex Packet album was dope. And I had that. And so, you know, people were really kind of looking forward to the next project that they had coming out. And I remember watching the video, and same song comes on, and Shock G's rapping, Money B's rapping. And then at the end, you know, this guy comes on the screen, and he's got a, if I'm not mistaken, he had on a dashiki. And I'm like, okay, who is this dude? It was just, you know, some other dude. I mean, honestly, we didn't know who he was. And keep in mind, this is the 90s, so, you know, there was no, you know, you couldn't like Google him to see who he was. And then eventually I think I saw an episode of Yo MTV Raps, and, you know, there was like, yo, this is our boy Tupac. And he used to be a dancer in the group or what have you, but, you know, they said he could rhyme. So I was like, okay, all right, Tupac. You know, and I didn't really make much of it. And then fast forward, you know, to his first album. You know, I think just for me, like hearing him rhyme for the first time on his album, I was like, whoa, like I didn't know this dude really could rap. And the things that he was talking about, man, you know, he was really, really deep. He really wasn't trying to come at you at that particular time with like hit records or anything like that. But from the first album on, you know, you could tell that he had a voice. You know, when you saw him in interviews, he had personality. He was just a guy who if I'll put it like this, if you were standing across a crowded room and someone said to you, okay, pick out the person in this room with talent, like you would be able to find Tupac, because he was just that kind of guy. And I think his talent and his personality resonated with people. And it's easy to understand, at least for me as a fan, it's easy to understand why I gravitated towards him. And it's easy to understand why fans like me gravitated towards him, particularly in his earlier days, because, you know, he was very charismatic, very, you know, very strong-minded, and it came through in his music. And so, you know, we really look forward to, you know, his albums and, you know, subsequently everything that he was involved in, whether it be movies, so forth and so on. As for Biggie, the first time that I heard Biggie, man, it was interesting because, and I've told the story before on my blog, but like I didn't know who Biggie was. I had no clue. And I remember there was this song called Dolly My Baby by Supercat. And Supercat, reggae artist or whatever, or dancehall artist, I guess that's what you would call him back then. And, Supercat got the song Dolly My Baby, had Mary J on the hook, Puff Rhymes on it, and some other guy. And at the end, Biggie comes on and he starts off, I love it when you call me Big Papa. And I'm like, okay. And it was, what was interesting was I didn't know who this guy was, didn't know anything about him. And I remember my boy Bruce on my football team. We were playing at South Carolina State University. I was in college at the time. And my teammate, my boy Bruce, he had the cassette single. Shout out to the cassette singles back in the day. So he had the tape on the cassette single. And I never forget, we were about to play a game, and he was like, yo, you need to check this out. And he was like, yo, the dude at the end is rhyming. And I was like, okay. So I listened to it, right? And lo and behold, the guy at the end, because Big had the last verse on the song, the guy at the end was just like what Bruce had said. He was rhyming. He was rhyming his ass off. I was like, yo, okay, he sounds different. This is something new. And so I just kept playing it, right? So we're about to play a game, and so we go on the field or whatever. I never forget. I took the tape. He gave me the tape. I took the tape, put it in my bag. I listened to it with my Walkman. Shout out to the Walkmans. I listened to it with my Walkman before the game, and then after the game, I listened to it again on the way back to school after we won the game, right? So I remember I just kept playing it, right? And I was really amazed at how dope this dude was. And it was just his verse. I mean, it was a catchy hook. I liked the song, but I loved his verse. And again, I still didn't know who this guy was. I subsequently found out later that he was, Biggie Smalls, aka the Notorious B.I.G. But we just knew him as Biggie Smalls, right? So fast forward to a week later, we're about to play another game, and my man Bruce comes to me and is like, yo, you got my tape? Huh? I'm like, nah, I don't have your tape, man. And he was like, I gave you my tape last week. And I was like, I don't have it. I was like, I think I left it, in the dorm. I made up some bullshit excuse, right? And so subsequently, I never gave Bruce his tape back. And really, I literally played that tape, that cassette single, just a single. And it was, I can't remember what was on the B side, but on the other side, but I literally played the tape until the tape popped. And for many, many years, and what was interesting was Bruce kept asking me for the tape, and I never gave him the tape back. I kept coming up with some other excuse. And even to this day, we talk every other day. He constantly, he will remind me from time to time, like, yo, you owe me for that Biggie tape. But yeah, I was really, thrilled to hear the guy rap. And then I think the next time I heard him was on Party and Bullshit. And, I just became a fan, man. I just really, really became a fan. And I think those two introductions of how I came to Biggie and how I came to Tupac symbolizes how a lot of us fans, particularly fans in the 90s, 80s and 90s, we sometimes you stumbled upon music. It's not like nowadays where, you could go online and find somebody's SoundCloud page and become a fan, or, they get guest featured and they appear at the Grammys or the, BET Awards or whatever the case may be. The path to the introduction of an MC takes time, so forth and so on. Sometimes it takes years, or at least it used to, right? It doesn't anymore. I mean, because technology has changed the game. But yeah, that was my introduction to Biggie and Pac. And I would be lying if I didn't say that I became a fan of both men very quickly. And again, I gravitated toward them. So when Ready to Die was about to come out, I was so amped because, we had a couple of hits and everything like that led up to Ready to Die. And, that was an anticipated album. Strictly for My Niggas by Tupac, Apocalypse Now. All of the albums, the Me Against the World album, which is my favorite Tupac album. I think it's his best work. All Eyes on Me is probably his most popular album. I think Me Against the World is better. But that's just me. But I think looking back on them, they, particularly before it all ended, I think as far as if you were able to step back and look at how they lived their lives, I think they led good lives. I think they were, very content, or at least from the outside looking in, it seemed to be that they were content with who they were and where they were going. Again, Tupac, when you look at him, when I looked at him in 1995, he had star written all over him. He went from, doing the hip hop to acting and TV and movies. And again, he was going to be a star. Now, of course, Pac was, he was going to speak his mind. Sometimes his mouth got him into trouble. Sometimes his action got him into trouble. We all know about, and it's well documented about, the case that he had against him, and, shooting at cops and, doing the bid in jail. And I'm not going to get into all of that. But from the outside looking in, it looked as if Tupac led a very good life, a very pleasurable life. Same for Biggie. From the outside looking in, it looked like Biggie really, really enjoyed, the spoils of his success. And it happened so quickly for him. Or at least from the outside looking in, it appeared that it happened very quickly, because one minute he's, selling drugs, the next minute Puff signs him to a deal, and the next minute, he's on the cover of magazines, he's making albums, he has this huge tour, so forth, and he's all in videos, he's all over the place. So they both, at least from the outside looking in, led good lives. And I think the fans, particularly fans like myself, really, really enjoyed watching them on their rise to stardom. Of course, there's a downside. I think one of the things that really resonated with me, and something I was watching just a couple of days ago, I was watching this documentary called The Defiant Ones. And it was about Dr. Dre and Jimmy Iovine, the record executive, and their rise to where they are, legendary status. And there was a time in the documentary, obviously, where they talked about Death Row Records and Tupac's involvement with Death Row. I think, and looking at that kind of made me think about where I was and how things were when Tupac died. Tupac died obviously in September of 1996. We all know, or maybe you don't know, about the quote unquote East Coast, West Coast beef, rivalry, or whatever. That was bullshit. I'm speaking as a fan and as a hip hop historian and as a hip hop head. It was bullshit. That's what it was. It was something that was made up and contrived by the media. And, unfortunately, people fell into the trap. There's the famous Vibe magazine cover with Biggie and Puffy on the cover. And, it was Vibe, the source. Some of those publications, they really contributed to a lot of confusion that was going on. A lot of he say, and keep in mind, this is 95, 96. There was no social media, so, I don't know if social media would have helped, but, it was really unfortunate. And, obviously I'm not going to get into, what was said. You all know what was said. Pac going back and forth, talking about he slept with Faith, who was Biggie's wife at the time. Pac making, suggestions that, Biggie and Puffy set him up to be robbed and shot. And that was his opinion. I mean, and to be honest, I don't know how much of that was contrived, and I don't know how much of that, because, you hear stories years later that, he really didn't think that, and all of these other things. But I think one of the things that, even in watching this documentary, made me think about, and it's something that really doesn't get talked about a lot in hip hop circles, but I'm gonna be real with y'all. That particular time when this East Coast, West Coast beef or whatever was going on, that was really, even though some great music was being cranked out, that was a really, really dark time in hip hop. And the reason why I say that is because, like, nobody knew where this was going. I mean, yeah, it was two guys who, used to be friends, used to be acquaintances, used to, have some level of friendship. I don't know how close they were, but they, I think they both admitted that at some point they were friends. And, they're going back and forth, and, not only are they going back and forth, but at this particular time, these are two of the biggest stars in hip hop. That had never happened before. I mean, like, there was beef in hip hop before. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that there was beef. I mean, we heard Ice Cube, release No Vaseline, but there was, even after Ice Cube released No Vaseline, there was never a point where I felt like Ice Cube life might have been threatened because Ren was going to shoot him or something like that. You know what I mean? It just, or Easy was going to try to kill him. I never thought that. Now, whether or not that actually was possible for happening, I don't know. But I think it was really a dark place in hip hop, because it was a lot of stuff going back. And again, we didn't have social media. So if you read, or you heard, or you happen to hear an interview where Pac is saying, fuck Bad Boy as a crew, as a label, as a staff, or whatever, or you hear Biggie saying, he's the king of hip hop, or whatever the case may be, and he's crushing all competition, and he's talking about Pac. You just didn't know where the end, because again, we had beefs or disagreements or whatever in hip hop, but nobody never saw the violence or anything coming. And, I think we, as fans, we stood on the sideline and we watched. And I don't think that we as fans, we as a hip hop community, did what we could have done. And to be honest, I don't know what we could have done, but I think we could have done more other than stand and watch. And so it goes back and forth, obviously. You all know the story. Tupac goes to Vegas and he gets shot again because he had been shot before. And I remember hearing about it. It was really weird because Tupac went to Vegas, he got shot, and like I didn't hear about him getting shot until like the next day on the radio, right? I mean, so it's vastly different from nowadays, because now if Tupac had gotten shot today, if he got shot at 12 o'clock, the story would be out, I don't know, 12:10. So anyway, so some days go by. I want to say it was like 6 or 7 days. And we're hearing that. And I remember hearing like maybe on the third or fourth day that Pac was doing better. He was in recovery and, things were looking good. And that could have been the case. I don't know. Sometimes when people are about to die, they usually, their health gets better before they pass. But that's the word that I got. And I never forget, like, I remember going to work. I was working at this video store and I walked in. I think I was working like 4 to 12 or something. And I can't remember if it was a Friday or a Saturday. And I walked in and I heard, one of Pac's songs on the radio, which was, nothing different because Pac, he was all over the radio. And so what had happened was Tupac had died that day. But I think I walked around for maybe 3 or 4 hours not even knowing. And so I get to work, I'm, checking in, clocking in or whatever. And one of my coworkers says, he was like, yeah, man. He's like, man, they're going to be playing Pac all day today. And I was like, okay. All right, that's cool. I guess we'll listen to, because we always would play the radio at work. And so I was like, okay, I guess we'll be listening to Pac today. And he was like, yeah, man, it's just really sad. And I was like, well, I heard he's doing better. And he was like, nah, man, he died. And I was like, huh? And he's like, nah, man, for real, he died. He's like, he died earlier today. And I'm like, man, you bullshit. You lying. And I really was, about to, really confront the dude. Because at that particular time, you hear all of these rumors and stuff and innuendo. I'm like, he ain't dead. And then like maybe a minute after the song goes off and the DJ comes on, and he's like, we got to send this out to Tupac, man, rest in peace. And I was like, huh? And I was blown. I was like, yo, it really hit me like he's dead. Because again, let me just let you in on a little secret. When Pac got shot, like nobody, I don't think we knew this, at least for me. We didn't know the severity of it. We just know he had gotten shot. He was in Vegas. He got into a fight. He's with Suge. Suge allegedly got shot. But I think medical records show that Suge, had the bullet grazed his head. I don't think he ever went to the hospital or anything like that. So I wouldn't necessarily classify Suge as getting shot. But yeah, so Pac gets shot and then he dies, and we're all left like, whoa, like where did this come from? And then all of a sudden you hear these rumors and rumblings that, this could have been, Bad Boy doing this. And then again, I don't know if Suge said this. I wasn't there, obviously, so I'm not going to put this on anybody. But I do, from what I do know, is that, and it's well documented that where Tupac got shot, the death row camp was traveling in like a 15 car, they were rolling 15 deep on the Vegas Strip. Now, if you've ever been to Vegas, if you're 15 cars deep and some guy just rolls up and just starts shooting into a car, you probably are going to see who's doing the shooting. But the word is that Suge Knight basically told his camp, like, look, don't tell nobody nothing. You ain't see nothing. I guess they were going to handle it the street way or whatever. Nonetheless, man, the hip hop community was stunned. Personally, I was stunned. And I felt, honestly, man, it was kind of weird because, again, I was such a fan of Tupac and Biggie. I was actually mad at Tupac when he got shot because I felt, and I'm going to tell you why. I was mad at Pac because I felt like he was really stirring this foolishness about him and Biggie. And I just couldn't wrap my head around the fact that there might have been any merit to it. So it looked to me like he was causing trouble to sell records, right? And there's some people that believe that. But I was really up as a fan. I was upset with Tupac, and so then when I heard he got shot, it's kind of weird to say what I'm about to say, but like, I knew he'd gotten shot 5 times, but I really didn't think Tupac was going to die. Like, that never crossed my mind that he was going to, okay, he shot you 5 times. Okay, he'll be okay. He'll, get out of the hospital, make a couple of songs and, be Tupac again. And so I was upset with Pac when he got shot. And then when he died, I felt bad because I was like, damn, should I have really been mad at him? So it kind of put for months. I was in a weird space with Tupac as a fan. And subsequently then, 6 months later, Biggie gets shot and killed. And I never forget, man, when I got the word, again, it was something that it happened. He got shot on a Saturday night. I get a phone call, 8:15 the next morning. It's my boy Zell. He calls me from Virginia, and I and you know, it was weird. It's like, you know, you and your boys, I never call my boys in the morning. They never call me in the morning. And I was living with my girl at the time, which is now my wife. And I remember she picked up the phone, and I guess she just knew it was for me. And so she didn't even answer the phone. So she picked up the phone, rolled over, gave it to me. And I'm never in the bed like that, but I can't remember what we did the night before, but we were hanging out, I guess. And so I answered the phone, and Zell could kind of tell, like, he was like, yo. I was like, yo, what's up? You know, and I'm like half asleep. He's like, yo, you up? And I was like, nah, what's up? Like that. And he was like, oh. And, you know, he just had this, I could tell, like, he had this sound in his voice, like everything wasn't cool. I was like, so I sat up, I was like, yo, what's up? I said, everything good? He was like, man. And I was like, what? What's up? He's like, man, they got your boy last night. And I was like, huh? And again, now I'm just waking up. So all of this is new to me. I haven't seen anything. I haven't heard anything. Again, you know, if this was, you know, nowadays, I would have heard about him getting shot, you know, because I guess he got shot that night. I didn't find out till the next morning. So he's like, they got your boy last night. I was like, who? What are you talking about? He's like, man, they shot Biggie. They killed him. And I'm like, get the fuck out of here. He's like, nah, man. He's like, turn on MTV. And that was the way that we found out our news, because we had to go to MTV. This was when MTV actually played videos and actually, you know, had news stories. Novel concept, right? Nevertheless, so I turn on MTV. Kurt Loder's on my TV screen. And he's talking about, you know, Biggie, and there's a clip, and they show Little Kim, and she's spazzing out. And I'm like, it was surreal. It was like, I mean, Pac's death hurt. Biggie's death really hurt because you just didn't see it coming. Well, neither death you saw coming. And it was just like, it was crazy. I mean, it's kind of hard to put into words, but like, I think this was the first time where and I'm not an emotional type person like that, but it felt like somebody that I knew or somebody in my family had died. And, you know, so I talked to Zell for a little bit, and then I got off the phone, and I was just like, I sat up, got dressed, and I didn't know what to make of it, because it was just weird. I mean, like, it's hard to put into words because nobody saw this coming. This was just bravado. This was just, you know, two guys going back and forth. This was, you know, this wasn't supposed to end like this. And subsequently, you know, you had people on different coasts talking about, you know, this person and that person. I mean, like a whole coast, you know, and what was weird was I was kind of in a weird space, because even though I was in South Carolina, you know, these two guys kind of drew a line in the sand as far as hip hop is concerned, because, you know, there was a huge segment of people, hip hop fans, that was riding with Pac. And so if you were riding with Pac, you didn't like Biggie. You just didn't. And if you know, a huge segment of the population, hip hop population, if you like Biggie, you wasn't riding with Pac. You just weren't. And so I was kind of in the middle, because I love both of them as MCs, and I didn't want to participate in all of that. I wanted to enjoy the music, love those two cats for who they were and everything like that. So when Big died, that hurt. And, you know, it was interesting because, again, there were a lot of MCs that took to radio, took to, you know, the print media, and TV, and they were just like, they didn't come out and blame Suge directly, but they were like, you know who you are, who did this to him. And so, you know, you had the feeling like, yo, this really could really take off to the next level, because now all of a sudden you have artists from the West Coast, you know, being a little leery about coming east, and vice versa. So, you know, there was a call for everybody to kind of come together. You know, things changed, and you know, time went on, and things kind of blew over, man. But it's still, even to this day, it's still, when I think about them, I think about their music. When I think about Biggie, I think about his music. I think about Pac, I think about his music. But when I think about that time, again, that was a very dark time in hip hop, and the time got even darker once Biggie got killed. And so we didn't know what to do. There was still some great music being made, but as far as hip hop and the hip hop community, it wasn't cool, man. It was really a sad and dark time, and it's an unfortunate part of hip hop history. And it's even more unfortunate is that, you had two young black men who, by all accounts, on both of the nights that they were murdered, were being trailed by the FBI. But nobody don't know who killed them. There's never been an arrest. There's never been a indictment. There's been so many theories as to what happened, but we still don't know who killed him. We don't. And I think that, as a fan, burns me, because I think I know for a fact we got cheated. We got cheated because here's the thing. The legacy of Tupac and the legacy of Biggie, depending on who you ask, I mean, their legacies are cemented. Pac had a very good, very strong catalog of music. I bought all of his albums. I bought after he passed, I bought the Don Illuminati, Machiavelli album, which I think I want to say that came out like a month or two after he died. I bought, Life After Death, which came, a month or so after Biggie died. Biggie died in March. I want to say it was like, maybe, no, I think it was like 2 weeks. 2 weeks after Biggie died. So, the music lived on. Now, I will be honest. I bought one more Tupac album after the Machiavelli album. That was I think it was a double CD. Do You Remember? Are You Still Down For Me? I think that's the name of the album. I bought that album. The album was okay. The subsequent albums after that I never bought. And the reason being is that I think even though Pac created a great deal of music, I don't think that's music that he would have put out had he lived. Same for Biggie. The Biggie duets, the Born Again album, I listened to them, but I didn't buy them. Because I don't think, come on, man. Like the Born Again album had a song with like Biggie and Cash Money. If Big was alive, do you really think he would have made a song with Cash Money? Nonetheless. But yeah, man, I think it's now the Dead Wrong song is dope. I love that song. But that's another story for another day. But I think, it's unfortunate. And again, as a fan, their legacies are cemented. There's always the debate about, who's better, Biggie or Pac. Honestly, I don't think there's any comparison. It's almost like you saying, okay, well, what's better, a Beamer or a Benz? If you got a Benz is good. If you got a Beamer's good. So, you can't go wrong with either one. I don't think there's any comparison between, Biggie and Pac, other than the fact that they both, had their lives cut short. There's always the debate about who's better, and, there's always the debate about where they land on in the top 5 or top 10 or whatever, where they land in hip hop. And special shout out to my boy Chris Harley, who constantly tries to tell me that Pac is better than Biggie. I know he's going to listen to this podcast. I'm not getting into that, but nonetheless, that's always a debate. Again, it depends on who you ask. They both have great catalogs. Pac's obviously more extensive than Biggie's because, Biggie didn't have as much music. Pac was writing songs and doing music crazy because, he felt like after Suge Knight bailed him out of jail, well, actually Interscope bailed him out of jail. But after Suge Knight, allegedly got him out of jail, he felt like he had to pay off that debt to him. So he was recording like crazy. He was trying to do what he could to, and there's a lot of people that think that Pac was actually trying to get off the label before he died. I'm not going to get into conspiracy theories, and some people say that Suge set up Pac. I'm not getting all that. Nonetheless, man, their legacies are it's cemented. It's unfortunate, but as a fan, I love both of them. I think both of them are great. I think both of them, in the short times that they were in hip hop, they added a lot to the game. And they influenced so many. Tupac arguably is one of the most influential MCs or rappers of all time. I will maintain, and I've always said this, and I love Pac, but I don't think Pac was lyrical. I think he was deep. I think he was, influential, but he's not as lyrical as Biggie. Biggie's catalog obviously isn't as long and vast as Tupac's, but that ain't his fault, and I really wish that we would have gotten a chance to. Can you imagine, Pac and Big, some 20 years later, particularly, seeing Pac navigate and move through this political climate that we're currently in, or that we've seen over these last few years. I would have loved to have seen that. I would love to have seen, Biggie, how his career would have shaped out. He and Jay-Z were planning a super group called The Commission. That would have just, it would have been doper than dope, and so I don't know how things would have shaped out, but I know they both would have, really, really added on to the legacy that they left behind. But at the end of the day, man, one thing is for certain, because they're gone, we can, always find solace in the fact that you can always press play and bring them back to life. Thanks again for checking out another edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I'm your boy 12 Kyle. I'll catch you guys next time. 5,000.
If you work in university maintenance, Grainger considers you an MVP because your playbook ensures your arena is always ready for tip-off. And Grainger is your trusted partner, offering the products you need all in one place, from HVAC and plumbing supplies to lighting and more. And all delivered with plenty of time left on the clock, so your team always gets the win. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, visit Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.